Hi y'all! So today we are doing one of our sub-series themes of the week. I know it has been a while. I think I haven't done one since April, so forgive me for not doing my lives. And if you knew what was the reason, you'd be like, Riza, that's the silliest reason, which I won't go into. So today we have three. We have three themes. I'm gonna do them backwards just because I think the one that's listed as first is kind of a little bit more long-winded. So let's see how we go along. So the first one that we're doing is just because it was normalized doesn't mean it was right. And I think that this is always a theme that comes up in therapy, really. No matter what the topic is, no matter what people are coming to for me for, whether it's anxiety, depression, trauma, childhood neglect, I think that that is a theme that we should all recognize in our lives, whether we're Guyanese, Canadian, Caribbean, wherever we are from, American, that, yeah, just because it was done to us doesn't make it normal. Just because my parents went through it as well doesn't make it normal. And I feel like this can be anything from licks, so physical violence as a punishment, expecting or having too much expectations of our children, whether academically, being cruel, being insensitive, favoring a child over another child. A lot of the themes, a lot of the things that I've discussed that are usually what I come on here for, all those things, think about all those things, and that's what I mean. Like, just because it was done to you, or you witnessed it, or it was done to someone you know, doesn't mean that it's right. And I feel like we kind of just tend to just be like, well, you know, that's kind of how our family is. Right, that's kind of how your family is, but that doesn't mean it's right. And I feel like this is a good time to insert this book. I've talked about this book a lot, and so I'm going to try and get the name of this book to the book cub if I haven't already given them the name for this one, but it didn't start with you. So this is, just remember the cover. It didn't start with you, and it says How Inherited Family Trauma Shapes Who We Are and How to End the Cycle. And it's by Mark Woollum. So this is a really good book because I feel like we often think that what we're experiencing, we're the only one, right? And I've already explained to you all that that's not true. That just because your sibling doesn't complain about the same thing, or your sibling doesn't have the same affliction you have, does not mean that they have not experienced what you've experienced, of that it has not impacted them, or that it doesn't continue to impact them. So I felt like it was really important for people to recognize, like, it did not start with you. Anything you're experiencing in your home or your family, it did not start with you. And I think that that's a really good thing I want to get across to clients and people in general, because I feel like it's so natural for people to blame themselves for things and carry burdens that are not theirs to carry. And so I feel like we need to recognize that things can change. Things can be different. And actually the book, and I'll give you a little preamble about this, but like the first two chapters are kind of, I think it's the intro or the first chapter. It's kind of wonky. Like, stick the book out. Like, I read it and I was like, this is weird. But stick the book out nonetheless. But in here, you know, it talks about like how to kind of get through the process, and talks about, like it says, stop the cycle, you know. So it talks about like how to describe your mother, how to describe, you know, there's bridging questions, you know, what does, you know, there's a lot of, and there's exercises in here and everything, you know, bridging questions, genograms, there's stories. It's a very well put together book, you know. And there's a whole chapter 10 here that talks about from insight to integration. So it's wonderful when you get to a place where you're like, yeah, I recognize that this is wrong. I don't want to experience this anymore, and I don't want to pass this on to my own children or to my own nephews and nieces. what do I do about it? So that chapter is really looking at like how to move from knowing it's wrong, recognizing, having that insight, and moving into integration and actually practicing those things that you've learned. So this is a, it's a pretty good book. It's a lot. It's here, this one it just came across as I'm flipping through. There's a chapter here in page 194. So if you do have the book, kudos. 194, that talks about blind love, and it talks about how like we interpret like love. And it says there are 21 invisible dynamics that can affect your relationship. You had a difficult relationship with your mother. You reject, judge, or blame a parent. You are merged with a feeling of a parent. So like your parent like pulled you in and enmeshed you with their feelings of resentment and shame and guilt. You experience an interruption in the early bonds with the mother. So that maybe your mother passed away, or she had to give you up for adoption, or she left and moved away. All these things can contribute to how you understand love and how you understand yourself, and so forth. Like, oh, even here's this one, number 9. Your mother's great love broke her heart. And like how her pain and from her past can be projected onto you. So it's not just as simple as that statement. Just because it was normalized doesn't mean it's right. It's like that book goes into like so much other things. So definitely get the book. I will try and contact the book club to get it brought in for all of you who are interested. You can always message me and I will let the book club know that we do have people who are interested. So that's that. And I feel like once you recognize, like they always say, like acceptance is the first stage, of processing. And I feel like if you accept, you understand that it's not right and you don't want it to continue, then it's up to you whether you go through it with a therapist or you go to do your own internal therapy by yourself, looking for books, looking for workbooks, novels, like books like this, self-help books. YouTube, there's so many things online about, how to address these things. So, don't feel like you're just stuck and like a therapist is the only person who can help me. Know that you can find it within yourself, and you can do the research, and you can watch the videos and read the books, and you can start making a stepping stone so that if you get stuck, then you can come and see us and we can help you through that, hopefully. Yep. Any questions, let me know down below. I see people are coming in and out, and that's good. And this was an interesting one. There was another theme, but I didn't write it down, so I don't know if it'll come back to me. But these two that I'm about to do are from about 2 weeks ago. So earlier in that block. Why do people choose who is not their type? I know that's like grammatically incorrect, but like, why do we choose people who are not our type, right? And I think that it's a very complex question, but I feel like I needed to talk about this because I started noticing a trend, hence why it's on the themes of the week. I noticed that a lot of persons who described being in unhealthy relationships or toxic relationships or even abusive relationships said to me, and I'm sure maybe somebody's listening out there and saying, oh my God, that's me, whereby they said, I don't even know why I dated that person. I swear to God, I've heard that so many times. I don't even know how we ended up together. And I think that's because sometimes when we are in a difficult place, like there's many factors that lead us to being with someone who is not our type. But I feel like take a step back and ask yourself, what was going on in your life when you met that person? Or what was going on in your life when you decided to entertain this person, right? Because there's a lot of people who've known these people for a long time. And I had a client tell me they knew who would become their abusive partner for like a whole year before they even got with them. And they said, Riza, it was like I felt uncomfortable around this person and I didn't know why. And then I was like, well, how come, like, how did you end up talking to them? And they were like, I was just coming through a breakup. I was heartbroken. I was depressed. I just wanted, I guess, some companionship. I wanted someone to go out with, and baps, a relationship is formed. And it's formed from a wounded place too. And I always talk about wounded place versus empowered place. And I feel like if it is that you are with somebody or have been with someone and you were like, it wasn't a healthy relationship, and you're like, why did I even, like, how did I even attract this person? Or like, why did I even end up dating this person? Always ask yourself, what was going on in your world, in your life, when that person came into your life? Or when you decided to start dating this person. Many times it's you're vulnerable, you've just had like a traumatic incident, or someone passed away from you, or you're grieving, or you had a breakup. So there's a lot of reasons why you might end up being a little bit more vulnerable, needing a little bit more support, needing a little bit more of that attention. And so you kind of give it to them. You kind of give in, because here's this person like saying, hey, like, let me take you for a drink, or, you know, you're so sweet, why are you so down? Don't worry with that man, or don't worry with that person. You're worth everything, gold and diamonds. And so you're like, okay, yeah, like, this person's not that bad, you know? And so you kind of end up falling in. And then when the person starts to show their true self, which is the next question, their true self, in your mind, this person has helped you out of a difficult place. So how can I leave now? You know, maybe they're just having a hard time in life too, and it would be selfish for me to leave. Or, you know, I want to, maybe you have a savior complex too, and maybe you guys are codependent, and maybe you need him and he needs you and he needs her, and, you know, it's a whole kind of dynamic that it's much deeper of a dynamic than just on the surface, than just saying, okay, just leave, you know. And so a lot of times people end up in these situations, and like I said, it does happen. It can turn bad, not always, but it's so interesting how people have said to me, and it just happens to be the people who had ended up hurting them, that they would say, that person wasn't even my type. I don't even know why I took them on. I didn't even know how I ended up dating them. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes it's really good to assess what is your type or your preference, because perhaps you also have been attracting a certain type of person who is not good for you either. So even within that person's not my type, I would always tell clients, like, maybe we should assess what your type is. Like, what are you really looking for? And there's a few exercises and techniques that we do for that, which maybe I should talk about, but I'm trying to be brief, which is like, I'll give you a simple one. A simple exercise I use to help clients kind of guide through whether what they're in is what they need and want is, there's no name for it, I just named the top 5. And it was given to me when I was a client like 10 odd years ago. And they said, think of 5 things. 5. That's it. 5. You can start with 10, you can cut it down to 5, but it must end with 5. Think of 5 things that you need, you, not your partner, not your mother, not your uncle, whomever, you need in a relationship, right? You guys, if you're listening, you can write this down. 5 things you need in a relationship. It can even be expanded to friendships, and it can be expanded even to work. I've done this with clients who are uncertain whether they should leave a toxic job or not. We use it for that as well. So go ahead. So 5 things you need, whether it's from friendship, relationship, or work, or even your family. And so you come up with those 5 things, whether it's communication and loyalty, or equality, or respect, or whatever it is, or kindness, whatever it is. And once you get that 5, great. Now you have your top 5 things that you need for yourself. And then what you're going to do, the second step, is to then compare it to your circumstances. If you have a partner, do they have those 5? And unless like you're in a very healthy place, at best you'll have 4 out of 5. I don't think I've heard any client say that they have 5 out of 5. And then you'll assess, do they have 1, 2, 3, whatever, and you'll see if, and I again, taking this from my experience as a therapist and research, the people who have relationship issues tend to only have like 1 or 2 out of 5, because you're with someone who probably is not listening, not communicating, cheating on you, hurting you, emotionally manipulating you, something that's making the relationship erode. They're not doing, right? They're not adhering to those top 5. So of course you're not going to have a healthy relationship if you're not getting majority of what you need. Now, you're not always going to get 4 out of 5 and 5 out of 5, but if you're really with somebody and it's really difficult and very hurtful, and you've been with them for like a while and it's still like 1 out of 5, and it has always been 1 out of 5, like since maybe after the first year, yeah, you got to assess whether that's a relationship you want to stay in or not, because clearly you're not getting your needs met. And then you have to consider like, okay, I'm not getting my needs met, but am I meeting all of their needs? Potentially. Right? Potentially. There's always that one partner who's like working a little bit harder. Now, there is a third step. Stay with me on this one. I want you to think of, if you only had 2 out of 5, if your partner only had 2 out of 5, I want you to consider, what have you lost or gained as a result of accepting only 2 out of 5? Okay? 2 out of 5. So say you don't have communication. That's one of the 5, and your partner doesn't have it. Or effective communication, or effective or active listening. You might start developing, you might lose patience, or you might lose your openness, right? If every time your partner, you want to look for validation and your partner doesn't have it. And one of the things that you may have lost was your openness to discuss everything and anything, right? And you may have gained a negative outlook, or a kind of like you're walking on eggshells. So there's always something that you gain or lose. So you gain something that's negative, and you can lose something that's positive. That was about you, right? I have had clients who said they've taken up drinking as a result. That's something that they gained negatively, right? Or and they might become very emotional. They're like, right, I'm not an emotional person. I'm very, very logical. I don't understand why my emotions are so crazy. And so that's something that was positive that you lost, right? So think about it. So that's my little technique. I don't always give out the techniques because I don't want the video to run too long. But I hope that was helpful. Thumbs up if that was helpful. And by all means, you can always share the video out and give these tips to your friends, you know, and family. Last question, which I said at the beginning of this video was a little bit loaded, but it was something that was said and then something that like just was so apparent through a lot of my clients, which is, why do narcs as a narcissist, why are narcs nice in the beginning? Now, I could do several series on narcissism, but my answer comes from really a psychologist called Dr. I think it's Lee Carter, something like that. It's an old white Southern guy who's on YouTube. You guys can look him up if you have any interest in narcissism. He's really candid about these things. He says that how the reason why like narcissists are so nice in the beginning of a relationship is because they're trying to lure you in. We're all going to be nice in the beginning of a relationship, but the narcissist is particularly trying to lure you in. They're trying to get you to see that like, I'm different, I'm not here to hurt you, I can show you a different like experience. You can be vulnerable with me. And once they start getting you to like be calm and open to this relationship or interaction or friendship, they then will start to collect information. The narcissist wants to collect information from you because eventually it will come in handy later on with manipulating you or gaslighting you or blaming you. And so, for example, if you had a relationship before the narcissist and you cheated once, maybe you just cheated once, and you do something sketchy 6 months into that new relationship with the narcissist, he will say, because he's collected this information already, or she has collected it, narcissists can be women too, They've collected this information already. So now they're going to be like, oh, and they're going to start being controlling and making comments and trying to control the situation, right? And you'll be like, why don't you trust me? And they'll be like, oh, why don't I trust you? Why don't I trust you? Because you have a past of cheating. You cheated once. You cheated once. Okay? You have a past for cheating. So I need to be careful and I need to be making sure you don't hurt me. And so it becomes a, I am now scared of you. Mind you, you don't have the power. The narcissist does. But now it becomes, you're going to cheat on me. Right? So it becomes a blame game rather than I have an issue with control and I need to control you. But rather it becomes I need to have a reason, or here's the reason why I am having, you're making me. Anytime you hear your partner say you're making me, red flag. Nobody should make you do anything. Right? So like from the time you hear a partner said, well, I wouldn't have hit you if you didn't make me angry. Or I wouldn't have had to check your phone if you weren't being sketchy. Or I didn't have to go with that girl if you wouldn't just give me sex. Like really? Really? So be very mindful of when your partner says, you made me. Right? And if you are the partner who happens to say, you made me, check yourself. Right? No one can make you do anything. That person may be triggering you, sure. But then you need to address why this person is triggering you, right? Instead of just blaming them for them triggering you. And they don't even probably know that they're triggering you, right? So, yeah, those are some of the reasons why the narcissist will be nice to you. Because, again, it's a part of this. And I always get this question of, are all narcissists calculated? And I said, no. Not all narcissists, I think, are calculated. I think they have learned through their upbringing, through their environment, that if I do X, I'll get Y. So I'm just going to do it because I need to feed me. I need to make me feel better, right? Because like I said before, the narcissist is just it's like a snail. That squishy little underneath internal self, and they need that big shell over them to protect them. So the narcissism is just an armor, really. It's nothing. It's just an armor. And unfortunately, if you, over time, the more the narcissist builds that armor, the harder it is to take it off. So it's not as easy as you think. And don't even get started on the trying to, can I change a narcissist? No. Even psychologists, some of the best psychologists have a hard time changing narcissists. They've been too long with this fantasy and denial and blaming everyone else and thinking they're the best thing since sliced bread. It's been a part of their like psyche of how they function and how they cope. When we get upset or we get disappointed, we go and maybe play some game or knit a sweater or go for a run. The narcissist sits down there and internalizes and says, I'm not wrong, I'm not wrong, I'm not hated, everyone else hates me because they're jealous. Yes, they're jealous. That's it. I have things to be jealous about. Yes. I'm amazing and everyone else is just jealous. And it becomes almost like a paranoia. Really. Like if you spend enough time with narcissists, or like at least like from a distance, because once you get too close you get too sucked in, but like if you watch a narcissist from a distance, you will notice their paranoia. And they will project that paranoia onto you as well. Yeah? So this was just some of the themes we had in the last month. I apologize. I knew there was a fourth one, but I don't want to make the video too long anyway. So if it comes up, I'll write it down. I hope you guys have been enjoying this little sub-series. I feel like my clients enjoy it because it's almost like their stories get to be put out there through me, which they said is very cathartic. I enjoy talking about them because I feel like you guys get to see what happens in therapy. So we are normalizing, in a good way, we are normalizing that you can talk about like anything in therapy. And also I'm hoping that this information will be shared, and you guys, the more information you guys take in, the more information, the more books you read, the more videos you watch, maybe you'll be able to kind of work through some of the things that bog you down on a daily basis. And maybe, you know, you can kind of like extend that time needed before like going to a therapist. Not saying that coming to a therapist is wrong or bad, of course not, but I'm just saying that, you know, sometimes we need to work through our own things on our own, see if we can do it with the right tools. And then, you know, if it is that we get stumped on a topic or an area or something really hurtful, traumatic, by all means, call us, right? We'll be able to help. But by all means, it's good for empowerment and building resilience and confidence if you have like a not so traumatizing stressor or event or thing that's worrying you. I'm not talking about full-fledged anxiety or depression. I'm just talking about regular stress and worries that you can deal with yourself through your own insight and your own education. And if you can do that, kudos. You're much more empowered than you think. You're much stronger than you think. And through that, you will be able to like take on the world. But if one day it's a difficult day, give us a call. That's all we're saying. So I hope this video was helpful. And I will promise to do my other themes in 2 weeks. I literally wrote it down, so don't worry, we're all set. Do have a happy Independence to all the Guyanese watching. Please be safe. Please, you know, self-care. Take a midweek break. Can you imagine that? We get a midweek break this week. So take a break, do some self-care, spend time with the persons who bring back that positivity and support and aid that you may need. Connect with maybe some friends you haven't spoken to in a long time. We're currently in COVID. I mean, you can video call any place all over the world. So, you know, don't feel restricted. And like I've said before all the time, do ensure that if it is you are in a slump, try one thing that is out of your regular slumpy routine and change it and see how the rest of your day goes. Okay? Have a lovely weekend. Happy Independence, Guyana. I don't know why I did that. And have a great week. Bye, everybody.